record to the cloud. So, woohoo! All right, it should be happening. Oh yeah, I see a little cloud with a red blinking dot in it. So we are live and recording now. So, all right, let's go ahead and kick it off. So everybody, welcome to the March meetup, and there we go. I am Paul Baylog, one of your steering committee members, and then we're joined. Brandon Hunter is on here as well. Siju John, looks like he didn't make it, and then not yet anyway. And then Michael, we'll just call them slackers for now. And then Michael Madden, he's on. Unfortunately, I know he said he had to do some work still with some of his Australian counterparts, so he's a little bit late. And then I put on here, we have our emeritus steering committee member, Sabri, who's kind of taking a little bit of a sabbatical from the Go language right now. He's been doing a lot of things with Rust, and he's actually involved quite a bit with the Rust portion of, I guess, is it KubeCon EU that's coming up, and then they're going to have a Rust portion of that. So he's quite heavily involved in that right now. So he's booked. So
literally writing a book.
What's that?
Literally writing a book on Rust.
That too. The guy's busy. He's definitely busy. Yeah. But yeah, so we just want to throw it out there. Thank you to our sponsors, GrowBridge, for covering all the Zoom cost and the meetup costs. And then as well, because Sabri is our local CNCF ambassador, they're also involved in there. And just, codes of conduct, be nice to everyone. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that we do have the top level domain, stlgo.org now. So we made a little shortcut to get to the meetup information, and also the channel, which I actually meant to live stream this, but being the professional that I am, again, I've forgotten to have that all set up. So I'm going to upload it afterwards. So a little bit of old school, but I am old. So anyway, just want to give it anybody the chance. Anybody wants to bring anything up, any questions or whatever before we get into our main presentation? And then and then I'm just going to say that tonight I'm drinking Lone Star beer. It is the national beer of Texas. So, and it's it's a thumbs up for me now. Unfortunately, hopefully people won't laugh, because I had the same beer last month, so I find that I like it. So that's a 2 thumbs up from me. So
I didn't know we were allowed to drink on this meetup. I would have
absolutely. Did I guess I forgot to mention that, but yeah, it's not required, next time, of course, but it's highly encouraged.
We need to send this clip to them to get them to sponsor the meetup.
Exactly. And I'll
next
even
time
go.
All of us will have one.
Yeah, and I'll go down there and I'll visit their brewery down there in Austin. So
there you go. You got antlers on the wall, so it should appeal to them.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, and after I've had a couple of these, then I just try to position my head just right for the antlers, so it looks natural. So yeah, it's always good to have a little social lubricant, right? So, so with that, I mean, what a perfect introduction. Just want to welcome Angelica Hill. I don't know. I'll let you do your whole bio thing. I know you're with the New York Times, so I don't know. Yeah. Is there going to be any kind of article on us?
I don't know. We'll see. No, regrettably, I do not work in the newsroom. I'm very close to the newsroom, but I don't work in the newsroom. No, I am a product manager at the New York Times. I work on our back-end team who maintains all of our kind of infrastructure for our push notifications, our emails, so all of our lovely newsletters. So my team is a wonderful group of Go developers who are trying to make sure that you all get the correct emails and push notifications in a timely fashion from us.
Well, you're doing well, because I mean, I do definitely get the push notifications to my iPhone. That's, so it keeps me up to date. So it's a good thing.
That's the aim. So if your push notifications are either too slow or you're not receiving your newsletters, ping me. We'll work out if and why there is an issue.
So, all right. So we'll know who to contact.
Exactly.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, yeah. So I'll let you go ahead and then let's see. How do we do where you can steal the?
I think I can. I think if you promote me to a panelist or a host or a co-host, I believe, then I'll be able to share my screen. But just while you're doing that, for those who are watching, I guess a bit of context. So I'm going to be sharing my screen and I'll play the recording of my keynote that I gave at GopherCon last year, kind of talking about my journey. Hopefully by the end of it, you will be in agreement with me that literally anyone can dive into the Go language. If I can do it, you definitely can. And then once I've finished playing that, kind of opening up for discussion, questions. I have a few topics that I think might be interesting for us to chat through in relation to my talk. But I really want to start out after I finish presenting to open it up to you guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, you are now officially co-host, so you should be able to take control.
Great.
And people usually straggle in a little late for some reason. I'm not sure why they're here this time. See, there they come. At least one.
Awesome. Can you see my screen?
I see it.
Awesome. I'll start playing and talk to you in a bit.
All right.
My name is Angelica Hill, and today I'm going to convince you that anyone can be a Gopher. But first, a little about me. I'm currently an associate product manager at the New York Times. I work on the Mercury messaging team, which is the team that oversees the backend infrastructure for all of our emails, newsletters, and push notifications. I spend most of my time working on our backend platform, Helix, which is made up of various microservices on GCP and is, of course, predominantly written in Go. I've been at the New York Times for about 2 years, and I've been a Gopher for about 1 year. Before that, I was at Columbia Journalism School, studying to get my master in journalism, specializing in counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and policing. Before that, I did my major in English literature and drama, specializing in Shakespeare at Queen Mary's University in London. And before that, I was at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, studying acting. Not your average Gopher, yet here I am. My hope is that by the end of this talk, you will have come to the same conclusion I have. Anyone, even a British liberal arts major who once aspired to be an actress, then an academic, then a journalist, and is now in product, can be a Gopher. This talk outlines my motivations and struggles to learn code and achieve Go competency in my first year working at the New York Times, with the help of several wonderful Go gurus. I'll go through the whistle-stop tour, from the moment it all began, into the Google storm, fiddling with functions, sussing out slices, muddling through maps. Then I'll talk you through my first 2 mini projects, Ping Pong and Peanut Butter, before telling you about my first real app and why I chose Shakespeare as the inspiration. Then I'll ask the question, was it worth it? Is it still worth all my time and energy to try to Gopherize? Before concluding with a few takeaways and top tips for all you Go veterans, possible Go gurus in the room, and fellow newbies. So, the moment it all began. As I mentioned, I'm in product management, and my team was working on refactoring our backend from PHP to Go, and wanting to understand the various debates that my engineering team were having, as well as wanting to build up some credibility with the various tech teams that I talked to within the Times. And because I'd always wanted to dive into coding, I just never had dedicated a real big amount of time to it. I never had made the concerted decision to dive in. So I signed myself up for a free month, twice after work class at the product school. This class was daunting to me for a number of reasons. Firstly, because only a few months
before I started, I had gone to the Apple store and been told by an Apple genius that the answer was to turn my laptop off, leave it for 10 minutes, and then turn it on again. To my embarrassment, it then worked. But on a more serious note, it was daunting because I hadn't started learning from zero for a very long time. Following high school, it had been about deepening my knowledge, becoming an expert in my field. This was the first time I was going to be starting from practically nothing. So the course went through the basic relationship between client and server, as well as introducing us to a range of different languages: Ruby, JavaScript, HTML. In the first week, I went in nervous, thinking it was going to make me a better product manager. But from the moment I wrote that first H1 tag, I was hooked. Coding ignited this fire in me, this excitement. I didn't just want to understand software engineering. I wanted to be able to do it. This led to what can only be described as a Google frenzy. I Googled every single word I'd ever heard come out of an engineer's mouth: Ruby on Rails, spaghetti code, GCP bucket, interface, as well as Googling every single language I'd ever heard mentioned: Rust, SQL, Ruby, Java, and tried to learn them all. A long story short, it got to the point where I was writing a JavaScript file in my text editor, but I wrote Ruby syntax and tried to apply CSS styling, and there was, I think, some SQL commands in there too. It was a mess. Long story short, I was making no progress. How was I going to learn how to be a software engineer when there was just so much to learn? It turns out being overexcited can sometimes do more harm than good. But there was one great thing that did come out of this Google frenzy, this overexcitedness. I started reaching out to the internal communities of practice at the New York Times and the language-specific Slack channels, asking for help and getting coffees with many extremely talented, interesting people who were willing to help. Out of these conversations, I created a Slack group, wanting to have other newbies get the opportunity to talk to these brilliant people who were helping me so much. This is Learning to Code at NYT, a channel I described as a place for beginners to coding, a channel to get advice, resources, and support as you dive into the wonderful world of development. This channel blew up in a way I could never have anticipated. By the end of the first day, we had about 100 members. The next day, one of the directors of engineering emailed me, the CTO, and my manager about it. By the end of 2019, we had over 250 members, and now we're knocking on the door of 300. We've got some great comments. This is one of my favorite. Learning to code feeds me in a way the Snack channel never can. You guys are the best. I was so proud of this group and the community I was beginning to form within the New York Times for fellow newbies, but personally, I was still flailing. I still had no idea how I was going to progress in trying to learn how to be a software engineer. This was where my first Go guru came into the picture. Marwan, who was a colleague at the New York Times. He seemed to literally eat, sleep, and breathe Go. He had such a passion for the language. I thought there must be something here. He directed me to the Golang website, started going through the basics with me, and for the first time in my frantic frenzy, something clicked. I could understand this. This felt like a language I could actually learn. So it was settled. Go was going to be my language, partly because of the unbelievably cute gophers I saw everywhere. So I had my language, but now I actually had to learn it. Looking for help, I turned to the various external meetups. And it was at a Women Who Go New York City meetup that my first Go guru, Marwan, gave the baton to Jonas, my next Go guru. She taught me a new way of thinking about programming that was syntax and code second, problem first. Think of something you want to do, a problem you want to solve. Think about how you would solve it, and then think about how you can use the tools Go has provided to you to solve that problem. She also taught me about functions and how a function is just a thing you can do. You can call it whenever you need to do that thing. It's safe to say after talking to Jonas, I was fiddling with functions for about a week. This is my first function, a narcissistic one, a virtual friend to say hello to me. Now it was on to slices and maps. Not to be confused with dictionaries, the irony being my first exploration into maps was writing a map of words to definitions, a dictionary map, as it were. With this next fundamental came another Go guru. Jonas introduced me to Wilkin Riviera, who was running the Go New York City meetups at the time. He introduced me to Gopher sizes. Now, the first exercise in Gopher sizes is to write an online quiz. I'm ashamed to say this is the only exercise I have done to this day. However, it did result in about a month-long obsession with quizzes. I wrote quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, longer quiz, funny quiz, Shakespeare quiz, maths quiz, I could go on. So having potted around with a lot of online resources, blog posts, YouTube tutorials, I felt like I kind of plateaued in my learning. My Go gurus had all been wonderful to this point. However, I was feeling bad about the many Slack messages, coffees, email messages I was sending them. I felt like I needed a more focused way of learning. Luckily, there was a Women Who Go and Go Bridges fundamental workshop coming up. So I signed myself up, borrowed a Go t-shirt, wanting to fit in with the crowd, and went. This is where I met my next Go guru, Johnny, who was running the workshop and who actually happens to be the reason I'm here today, having encouraged me to do this talk. So you can blame him later. This day felt like a turning point for me. Firstly, because it made me realize I'd actually learned some things. Many of the basic concepts Johnny was going through, I understood. But more importantly, I was sitting with fellow newbies, many of whom had been coding for years and were struggling as much as I was. This made me feel far less self-deprecating, in that I had truly worried that maybe I just wasn't smart enough to learn code because I was progressing so slowly. But it also showed me how much I could learn and accomplish when I immersed myself for a day in nothing but Go. Following the workshop, I stayed in contact with my Go guru, and he advised that I start working on mini projects that would enable me to try and use a combination of fundamentals together. Out of this came 2 mini projects that I am unbelievably proud of to this day. This is the first, Ping Pong, a program that I described as a program that allows you to play virtual ping pong and tells you how many times you hit the ball. In reality, it was 2 channels that were passing the string ping and pong between each other. And this is Peanut Butter, named after my favorite midnight snack, a program I described as a program that makes you a virtual peanut butter and jelly sandwich and tells you how long it took. Well, in reality, I originally described it as making a peanut butter and jam sandwich, but as this usually resulted in a long conversation with the difference between jelly and jam in the US and the UK, I thought I'd make my life far easier and just Americanize this once. I was so proud of this particular program that it can be found to this day on my GitHub with a README and everything. So after a series of these mini projects, I was told by my Go guru, Johnny, to think bigger. Think of an app you could actually use in the world. Think of a problem that you see and solve it with this application. Naturally, when thinking about what to do, I turned to my first love, Shakespeare. I decided to write a program that would enable the user to choose a title from the complete works of Shakespeare and then choose a word, and my program would tell that user how many times that word showed up in each act of their selected work. Now, it was one thing knowing how to use some of these fundamentals in mini projects, but it was quite another to use them all at once. After about a week, obsessively coding in the mornings, the evenings, before and after work, as well as a few lunch breaks, I finished my program. However, one, it only worked in the terminal, and two, it was over 800 lines of code long, and frankly, a bit of a mess, hence why you will not be seeing screenshots of it now or ever. This is where my next Go guru came in, Bailey, who I met at a Women Who Go meetup. She advised that I look through my code and look for places that I had repeated myself, and then write functions to replace those repetitions. She also advised that I look into Go routines and channels. Now, these substantially improved my code. However, I ended up going a little bit crazy with the Go routines and channels. Once I'd finished, I had a total of 189 channels. To give you an idea of what a mess this was, this is what my program looked like after I removed all of the sonnets, all 154 of them. Apparently it takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert in something. I would say I'm pretty close when it comes to Go routines and channels, definitely when it comes to copy paste. As you can imagine, this caused me a lot of issues. Turning to my first Go guru, Marwan, I got a nugget of knowledge that changed everything. You can have one channel that you send all your information to. The feeling of satisfaction as I deleted all of those channels was amazing. So now that I had refactored my code and it was in a place that I was pretty happy with, I wanted to make it into an actual app, a usable web application that I could tell all my friends to use on a local host. Bailey and various YouTubers were my gurus here. I looked at blogs, inspected web pages that I admired, and read all the documentation I could find on the NetHTTP package before diving into development. Once I finally got it working and showing up on localhost 8080, I asked my Go guru, Bailey, if she would look at it. She asked that I put it on GitHub, and this opened a whole new challenge, as I'd never used GitHub before. I learned about Git, branches, a few developer best practices, and created my first PR. Long story short, I created the PR, received my first review, first issue report, made the process of making those changes, and created a new PR, got an approval, and merged. So I had my program's basic client-server relationship sorted, but now I needed a front end. And as the Go community had already given me so many wonderful Go gurus, naturally, I turned back to the community for my next. I attended a Go New York City meetup where Anthony Stark was giving a lightning talk on the SVG package. Afterwards, he kindly got a coffee with me, and that was where he demystified the relationship between front and back-end languages. He talked me through how to integrate your Go program with a HTML, CSS front end, as well as giving me more information on the SVG package. This got me really excited about diving into two new languages, HTML and CSS. Now, learning HTML and CSS was slightly easier than diving into Go originally, not because they're more simple or easier to learn, but because by this point I had learned not to second guess myself, to just dive into learning. If I needed help, I could ask for it. There were people around me who were willing to help, and I had many HTML helpers and CSS supervisors. So I ended up writing a simple HTML CSS static file, as well as some inline HTML for this part, but I am very much looking forward to diving into the SVG package in future apps. And this is how it turned out. This was my first big milestone. I was so proud. I think everyone I'd ever met saw this app. That's how proud I was of it. So as I moved along the road to become a Gopher, I also wanted to start giving back to both my team and the Go community. Within my team, I took on the task of deleting user data when we got GDPR requests, as well as attending the engineer working sessions and taking on small tickets. This is my first. It was only one line change, But I took the ticket, made the change, put the PR in, got a review from my team, and got an approval. And I've done quite a few of these small tickets since. I also began contributing to the Go community. I hosted my first Go New York City meetup in November 2019. I hosted a Women Who Go 2-day intro to Go workshop in February 2020. And I now help as part of our internal New York City, New York Times Golang group. I hope to host a lot more Go events once we can in the future. So now on to the big question. Was it worth it? Is it still worth me investing all this time and energy to become a Gopher? The journey thus far has been wonderful, filled with challenges to overcome, wonderful people, and helpful resources to turn to. However, it is and continues to be extremely challenging for a number of reasons. Firstly, because writing code or any software engineering is not my job. Therefore, I can't dedicate the amount of time that I feel I need to learn in the most effective way. And secondly, it's the crippling imposter syndrome I still feel. I have no computer science background. I stopped taking maths at 16. And I have this image in my mind of what a software engineer is that, frankly, I don't feel like I fit with. I've doubted myself and have literally cried multiple times when I've not been able to understand or do something. I came to this country from London with no real friends or family, no real community. I spent 10 months building up a community at Columbia Journalism School, only to have most people leave when they got jobs elsewhere. I then started a new job and started trying to build a community there. But it wasn't until I found the Go community that I truly felt like these could be my people. This was a community I wanted to invest my time in. Hence the tears when I felt like I didn't fit in or I couldn't get it. Because the thought of losing that feeling of belonging was absolutely terrifying. It is in these moments I have been most grateful for the Go gurus and the Go community I have around me. They encouraged me to carry on and gave me the next steps to progress when I felt like I was losing hope. So thank you to every single person I've mentioned, as well as those I haven't. You all know who you are. Now, I'm going to take a few moments for you veterans in the room, you possible Go gurus. I want to talk to you for a minute about how my Go gurus helped me. I want to give you some tips if you want to dive into the world of being a Go guru. Throughout my journey so far, I've spoken to a lot of colleagues and friends, brilliant developers, who expressed the desire to help others try to learn code, but they didn't know how, or they worried that they wouldn't be any good at teaching others, because many of the things that they wanted to teach to them are now habit. What I'd say to those of you watching who are willing to help newbies is firstly, thank you. And secondly, don't worry about not being any good at teaching or helping. Just by giving some of your time to let someone talk through a problem they're having, a concept that they're struggling to get their head around, or sitting with them while you help them troubleshoot an error or an issue they're encountering, you're making a huge difference. Some of the most beneficial conversations I've personally had with my Go gurus have not been me sitting while they spoke about concepts, writing notes. It's been me talking through a problem with them, asking my guru questions, and then having my guru lead me in the right direction. So this is my first top tip for you Go gurus. Don't tell your newbie the answer. Guide them and help them come to the conclusion themselves. A simple example of this is something I myself did. When I came to my Go guru asking about this particular program, I couldn't understand why it wasn't working. Why wouldn't my program run? Now, my Go guru could have made his life far easier and just told me, you need to delete the string after the bracket. And I would have been happy, my program would have run, and I would have moved on with my life. However, I wouldn't have understood why it wasn't working. And inevitably, I would have had this issue again. So my Go Guru instead asked me to hover over the error and read it out loud, missing a return at the end of function, and then asked me to read through line by line what my code was doing. This is a function called greetMe that takes a string, which I have chosen to call name, and returns a string, which will be the program saying hello to whatever name I give it. In this case, my name, Angelica. My Go Guru then asked me what I meant by return and what the program meant by return. This is where the learning came in. Through this conversation, I realized that my program wasn't returning anything. It was printing to the terminal. Therefore, that is why the second string wasn't needed. It would have been far easier and less time consuming for my guru to just tell me the answer, but that wouldn't have given me the opportunity to work it out myself and enable me feel like I truly understood what was going on. Also, this isn't for everyone, but I found it especially useful to talk through my program line by line. To this day, I found it an extremely useful tool when troubleshooting. On to the second top tip. If you're working with one mentee, or perhaps it's someone new to the language or a junior developer, whoever it is, assume they know nothing in your first conversation. Work out their knowledge from the absolute basics, explicitly state it. Say, I'm going to assume you know nothing and start from the absolute basics so that I can see where you're at and we can start from there. Do you know the difference between a front and back end language? Do you understand the basic relationship between a client and a server? This is a great way to start because it enables your mentee to feel empowered to tell you what they do know. And it also gives them a positive affirmation of their knowledge. It also mediates that fear that many newbies have of asking stupid questions because you're beginning to speak to them at a level that they can understand. In keeping with this, something that I really appreciated, even when I was talking to a Go Guru for months on end, was that every time I encountered a problem, they would check in on the fundamentals with me first. For example, they would say, Angelica, this issue that you're encountering is to do with pointers. Do you feel like you still have a baseline understanding of how pointers work, or would you like us to go through pointers first before we dive into your specific problem? I really appreciated this. My third top tip for you Go Gurus is to keep your mentee moving forward, helping them continue in their learning and always giving them the next steps. Check in with them. This doesn't have to be regularly. It can be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, every other Sunday. The important thing here is to set them clear times when they can come to you to talk about issues they've encountered. This is great for two reasons. Firstly, because it makes your mentee feel truly supported, like they always have someone to turn to. And secondly, it's a great incentive for your mentee because they don't want to come to you for your check-in and you ask what progress they've made since last you spoke and you say nothing. So the next level of this is setting your mentee tasks with deadlines, almost like homework. This is not going to be great for all mentees, but for mentees like me who love deadlines, this is going to be great. I could go on and on about all the brilliant things that my Go Gurus have done for me, but the main thing is just to be there for your mentee, whether it be a sounding board for their ideas, someone to turn to for guidance, or someone they can vent to about their frustrations when they don't understand something. I've cried more times than I'd like to admit to my Go Gurus when I haven't understood something. And it was those Go Gurus that gave me the motivation to continue and let me know it was okay that I was frustrated. It just meant that I cared. Some great resources that my Go Gurus pointed me towards were Go Playground, Go Wiki, Go Tours, Gopher Sizes, as well as attending Go conferences together and watching Go conference recordings together and going through the content. Not only have I met some wonderful aspiring Go gurus wanting to help people learn, I've also met a lot of people wanting to help build a more diverse and welcoming community of Gophers. And to them, I've given one top tip, and that is to talk as much as you can about what the Go community has given to you. Whether it be at work, at meetups, at parties, at family gatherings, wherever it is, just use your voice and tell people how wonderful the Go community is. Literally say anyone is welcome of all levels, experiences. It's a community that will support you no matter where you are in your career or your life. That's what I've been doing. And slowly but surely, I brought some brilliant women, minorities, and members of underrepresented groups into this community, many of which I'm so excited to say are watching today, just by being honest about what the Go community has given to me. This goes hand in hand, not just with changing the stereotypical perception of what Gophers are, but of what software engineers in general are. Whenever asking around about other development communities, I really, really value people who will direct me to people who are friendly, helpful, but also are a representation of a diverse community. I'd like the Go community to be like that too. So whenever anyone asks about Go, I always make sure to direct them to someone who has that same vision of diversity that I have. Now, I know that was a lot. So for all you potential Go gurus, here are your 3 takeaways. 1, offer to help whenever possible in whatever way the individual needs. A study buddy, someone to bounce ideas off of, someone to review a PR, whatever they need. 2, don't just tell your newbie the answer, guide them and help them come to that conclusion themselves. And 3, use your voice. Just by stating out loud, the Go community is open to anyone, we welcome anyone. You can make a huge impact in the way people perceive our community. And if you say it enough, then maybe we can make it a reality. I haven't forgotten about you Go newbies. So for all you aspiring Gophers and Go newbies, here are your 3 takeaways. 1, truly anyone can be a Gopher. It doesn't matter your background or how technical you think you are. If you have that rush of excitement, that fire in your belly, thinking about learning Go and trying it out, you can do it. 2, it's not going to be easy. There will be many challenges, but it will absolutely be worth it in the end. And 3, don't be afraid to ask for help from everyone and anyone. You have so many people around you who will be willing to sit down and help you along the way. Any of the GopherCon speakers this year? My first Go conference was Gotham Go in 2019. I saw Johnny speak, emailed him right afterwards, and he got a virtual coffee with me the next week. Our first conversation began with me asking him, what's a variable and how do I print it to the terminal? In fact, could you please explain to me what a terminal is? Our most recent conversation was chatting through this GopherCon speech. So I hope you've all found this whistle-stop tour at least moderately entertaining. And if you take only 3 things away from the entire talk, let them be these. 1, anyone, no matter what background, can be a Gopher. 2, I hope you've seen how amazingly important and helpful my Go gurus were along the way to keep me motivated, to help me not give up, and to give me that confidence to push forward. And 3, for all you non-newbies, you truly can change someone's life by helping them along their Go journey and being a Go guru just by being willing to help. Thank you. Oh, and side note, I am currently looking for a new Go guru, so if you're interested, let me know.
And there you have it.
All right.
That was my GopherCon talk, my whistle stop tour to the start of my GopherCon journey. By no means the end. Obviously, that was back in, I don't even remember. Time is a weird concept at the moment. Back GopherCon last year. But happy to take any questions there might be. I see there's a load of comments.
Yeah, sadly, they were probably more about the Lone Star beer, unfortunately. But yeah, please, anybody. It's crisp and refreshing. Tastes like America. Oh, no, it's. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. Or oh, here we go. Yeah, so Steve asked if you had zero coding experience before doing Go.
Yeah, zero, literally zilch. Go was my first, and now I say my first and only language. I have since dabbled in Python, dabbled in a little bit of C++, but Go is still my primary language, and it looks to continue to be my primary language. But yeah, nothing. If you had shown me any other language, like Go next to Python, next to like SQL even, I would be like, yep, that's all the same thing.
That's fine.
And if you look at JavaScript, though, you're like, that's not even readable.
Yeah,
exactly. And then I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I still do that with every single JavaScript thing I touch.
Yeah, I used to always be like, JavaScript, that's the tool of the devil.
Exactly. I actually enjoyed my last TypeScript project, though, that I worked on. It was actually very well maintained. So, not as good as a Go one, though.
Yeah, and then Tim here, he's asked how you developed your speaking and presentation abilities. It's so underrated in technology, and it's so important.
I'm still not great at it. I feel like it's definitely remains to be a work in progress, but I would say two things. One is practicing like crazy and kind of getting over the initial apprehension about talking in front of other people. So I started with a gradual process to build my confidence. I would present in front of my friends, and then I would present in front of a little slightly larger group. My GopherCon talk, I did the talk kind of internally at the New York Times and then got comments there. So honestly, I think it's just a case of practicing like crazy. I would also say for GopherCon specifically, it got to the point where I practiced it so much that there are bits that I just kind of was like spieling off from memory, and so I didn't really have to focus too much. But I think it's just about practicing, but also I would say something I do. I hate talking in front of people, genuinely. It is my nightmare. So what I do to this day is two things. One is I pretend that I'm not me. I'm like, what would like alter ego Angelica, who is really confident, and like, what would she be like? How would she present this? And then I use my acting background, inhabit that character, and then talk. The second thing I would say is saying yes to as many speaking opportunities as possible, almost like cleansing by fire. Like, if I do it enough, maybe it'll stop being so terrifying.
That's funny.
I
was going to comment about the theater background.
Yeah, the theater background definitely helps. And honestly, I've realized my little coping mechanism of kind of the alter ego Angelica, like since doing my talk, and even when I was practicing before, I started kind of chatting to other people who wanted to do conferences. And I've realized that in fact is kind of a useful mechanism for a lot of people. Even if you've never done acting in your life, that idea of kind of envisioning success and saying like, okay, this is not me. This is like, I'm stepping out of myself. I'm going to try and leave my apprehensions behind and just go for it. I've seen be really helpful to a lot of people who have kind of stage fright and really don't enjoy talking in front of people.
Well,
and then I signed myself up to be on a panelist on Go Time. So now I have to talk.
Oh, nice.
On a regular basis. So.
Well, I know I've heard you on the podcast several times, but so now you're a legit full-time panelist. I mean, every week.
You know what that changelog website? My goofy face is there.
we joked with my architect on my last job that I was at that his job description actually said that he must speak with a British accent when speaking to stakeholders.
Really? Yeah, I like your comment. It comes naturally.
Yeah.
Regrettably, it does not come naturally. This British accent, I wish it did. A lot of people say that it should, and they just expect me to be eloquent and be able to present because of my accent. I think the one thing that has been beneficial is if I forget what I'm saying when I'm presenting something, I can just like digress into mumbling and heighten my accent, and people just assume that I'm still speaking English. My accent's just too thick.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you can literally get away with stuff that makes you sound incompetent. So
exactly. Retain the accent at all costs and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Too funny. Yeah, I love hearing these origin stories, I guess, for developers, because I know I did not start off with a technical background. I mean, I went into accounting, and then in school, and it's like this is mind-numbingly boring, and I couldn't handle it anymore. And yeah, so I went to school forever, but then I took a C++ class, and I learned about operator overloading, and then that's when it's like, okay, this is it. If I can change what a plus sign means, I'm in. So that was it.
I mean, I know I wasn't asked, and it's not me to answer, but I would like to add, like I came from launch code, so I very much have that imposter syndrome background as well. Like my degrees in psychology and criminology, I studied nonverbal communication and counterterrorism at Oxford. And, I thought that's the direction my life was going to go, and then ended up in tech. And I remember my first job was all Java, and I walked over to Paul one day, first time I met him, and asked him about Kafka. Well, 2 years later, last summer, I'm like building a big data pipeline using Kafka alone by myself in Kubernetes, which was not originally part of the statement of work. They said, hey, can you put this in Kubernetes? And that's like literally how I got to where I am. It's just like new things like being kind of thrown at me, a lot of missing business requirements, just asking questions. So.
Yeah, for sure. I would also say though, the perception I had before I kind of dove in versus now, of the fact that like most of the people that I've interacted with and who I have learned the most from have not had computer science backgrounds. There are still, brilliant software engineers who have computer backgrounds. They have that like traditional background. But honestly, I really would argue that like the traditional background for software engineers these days is the majority untraditional, coming from the humanities, coming from the sciences. I think it's wonderful. I think it's really diversifying the way in which we think about the problems we're solving and the way that we approach our work, especially in a team setting. So I think it's only doing good to the community. I'm obviously biased because I am a humanitarian who like came into the discipline. So of course I would argue that we're contributing a lot, us non-technical backgrounders. But I think if this meetup was any representation, you've had all three of us, like I'm sure others on the call, with non-traditional backgrounds.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah, Jay mentioned that. Yeah, the best coder on his team was a marine biologist originally. So probably trying to make robot dolphins or something, I guess. I don't know. It's got him in the
hiring manager. I don't make formal education prerequisites. That's awesome. That is definitely something I would highly encourage, and I certainly push very hard at the times for. So we should not have any prerequisite for computer science. We should have prerequisites for years of experience, but education, I don't think is that relevant anymore.
I'll say where I've flourished the most, where I've been able to shine the most and do my best work, has been in jobs where people didn't question my ability. They just said, hey, can you go do this? And like, it's something I've never done. And I just say, sure. And I've not failed to do any of it. So that's literally how I've grown in everything. It's how I learned Go. Like literally the first Go project I ever worked on went into production almost immediately at Bear. You know,
Mhm.
Bear, like, you know, like Global 200 or something like that company. Like, and yeah, that's mind blowing to me.
I think that's a big point. Just say yes. Just say yes and try it out and be very brutally honest about what you don't know, which is the other thing, honestly. So I graduated and I from Columbia and I went straight into a job at the New York Times where I thought very much in the mentality of like, don't show weakness. Like you need to know everything. Like you're with these brilliant, amazing people. Like don't show weakness. You know everything, Angelica, or they'll sniff you out and realize you're not the person they thought, and you'll be out the door. But really, honestly, I found the most progress I've made was when I completely got rid of that, and I was like very, very open about like I don't know this. Like please teach me. It's okay that I don't understand this, because I'm going to put the work in to learn it, and I'm going to be open and honest with you, and we can have a great conversation around how I'm going to learn this and how I'm going to improve. I also think I've seen tangentially, like on my team, obviously, like I'm not a software engineer on my team, as I mentioned, I'm a product manager, but being very open within the kind of engineering working sessions and when we're talking through like technical problem solving and how we're going to implement our solutions, being the person in the room who's continually asking like, okay, why are we doing this? Okay, tell me like, what is the difference between GKE and GCP? I've seen it educate my engineers by default and open the door for them to begin asking these kind of silly questions. And honestly, we've done far better work since then, because I don't think you can have a truly creative nor kind of efficient development team unless you have that openness and everyone is on like a level playing field, feeling comfortable and confident to showing like weakness. Otherwise, you get into this horribly unhealthy competitive environment where everyone has to be the prime coder. I don't know. I have no interest in fostering that kind of culture in my team.
Right.
Can't have that alpha coder.
No, honestly, if any alpha coder tries to ever join a team I am a part of, they have got another thing coming. I will be having stern words with them and putting on my poshest British accent and wagging my finger.
Yeah, I've been like on teams with like people who like I would have an issue assigned to me, right? And then this is like earlier on in my career, and then they would just like go ahead and do it without telling me. Mm-hmm. And then like I would like be trying to push changes at the end of the day and have to resolve merge conflicts. I'm like, what is this going on? And it would just be like a nightmare and just causes problems and disruption. And yeah, but like kind of transitioning here into John's question. That's tough. But I actually find I'm kind of going the opposite way, right? Like I went through launch code, I learned basic like C, a little bit of PHP, JavaScript, and Java, and then went into a Java job, and then like went on to a consultancy where I just got everything thrown at me, except for stuff like I got a little bit of Docker, but except for like Docker and Kubernetes and stuff. And all of a sudden last summer, you know, right after the pandemic started, I found myself locked in my basement trying to learn Kubernetes and, you know, all these like YAML files and configurations and stuff rather than development. But also because I came from a developer background, being able to espouse configuration as code versus configuration over code, which is like kind of what they want. Well, we just want to be able to configure it. Like, well, you also want like a revision history of everything you changed, and, like the working state of it at the time. And that allowed me to be able to speak to those sorts of things. So I think coming from one background, going to the other is actually a benefit, whereas you see it as more of a challenge. I think it just gives you more perspective that allows you to communicate things to a broader audience. So literally just, I can't give you specific advice for learning development from going from, you know, more DevOps configuration stuff. But it's really just apply what you know and do what comes next, like figure out what that is and learn it. I mean, that's when I was at my job 2 jobs ago, and I said like I was learning so many different things all at once. That's pretty much like what it was. I went from doing all Java to doing JavaScript that and React that needed to go into production, while also learning Go and doing Spring Boot for the first time. And and so I mean, like it literally getting pulled every which direction. So really, just don't question your ability. Just you know how to do it. If you've made it this far, you clearly know how to learn. Learning's the same regardless of what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I could just add in for the, as far as that infrastructure kind of, check out some of the tooling. Cause I mean, like Terraform, Terraform is a really cool product. I mean, that they use to build up your infrastructure so you can put together these files to define how you want, your cloud infrastructure in like AWS or GCP or whatever, but it's written in Go. And then, try playing around, create a custom provider, um, for, that'll create something in one of the cloud or if you're on a, private DC or something, to set up one of your own private things. That's always kind of one of the things. I mean, I love open source projects. I mean, some of them are really good, others are not as good, but I mean, I've contributed to like Linkerd project because I was kind of interested in the service mesh stuff. Yeah, it's tough to find the right project, um, because it's like, how do you know what you're gonna like until you kind of mess around with it, but try to incorporate that type of a thing. So if you're building infrastructure, yeah, take a look at something like like Terraform or even Cloud Formation if you're in AWS land. It's
And
learn from the others that went before you. It's like we're all building on the shoulders of giants, as they say. So
that's a good point, Paul, actually, that I should have mentioned in addressing John's question. If you're coming from an infrastructure background, most of infrastructure that, like in the modern cloud environment is built in Go. Kubernetes is built in Go, Docker is built in Go. What am I forgetting? Well, TensorFlow is machine learning, but is all Go. Like I know so many of the daemons and different things that run in AWS that communicate things are written in Go. Like things that don't support Go necessarily in AWS, like I think most things do now, but like there's times where like run environments like Lambda didn't support like Go, but it was written in Go. Helm is written in Go. And there's like a number of command line utilities that are written in Go for writing command line utilities, which I've done. It's literally, there's a good article on it when they were like introducing the Go Cloud Development Kit, CDK, Go CDK, saying the Go is the language of the cloud. So like all your cloud infrastructure, more or less, is written in Go. If it's not written in Go, it's probably written in Rust or something else similar. But point of that is when I was learning to do Kubernetes through Helm and Docker and all that, but mostly Helm, it came in, my Go experience came in useful because I would hit errors that I didn't understand, but I would see the like error would be in something.go. And I actually dug into that and saw what was happening. They told me, oh, this is a white space error, which was not something that was necessarily clear from the error log or something like that. And so you can like kind of draw on stuff like that. Really YAML, by the way, it uses Go. That is the templates that you use in Helm, for example, that's all Go template. So you can draw on experience from development and vice versa when you're looking at those two things. And I had another point to state with that, but I'll just like stop talking by saying, if you don't know what YAML stands for, by the way, it stands for YAML ain't markup language. So recursive. Yeah.
Wait, what? I thought it was yet another markup language.
Is what YAML stands for. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, Steve mentioned about setting aside consistent time. And then I know Angelica, you mentioned that you used Gopher sizes, which obviously is from one of your Go Time co-hosts, because John Calhoun, he created that, right? Yeah, I've actually yet to try that, but I have done things like with because I know they usually at job interviews they like to do the pair programming challenges with you on the Hacker Rank, and that's kind of a fun one. You can go on there and then you can just try different exercises and whatnot. So.
Well, I would say, well, that despite the association with John and the fact that I did dive into it, I mean, what I said in my talk, the fact that I've only done the quiz exercise remains true to this day. But I think I got all I could out of that one exercise because I wrote every single quiz, possible to man. But no, I feel like Gopher sizes is definitely great. I would say for my use case, I went to it to get ideas as to the kind of things I could build. So I would see, okay, card game or solitaire, or okay, build a battleship game. And then I'd go away. I wouldn't necessarily actually do the step-by-step Gopher sizes exercise, but I would go away and try and build it myself. If I needed help, I would most likely Google it, or I would like skip through the Gopher size video until it showed me like part of the solution to get me started.
Oh, you're going to be in trouble with John now.
No one tell him. No, I think I told him this before, but I think I may well at some point actually go through, but I just found, if I'm honest, that Shakespeare app, like I work on that to this day. It's like from that point onwards, I've kind of just been, any concept I want to learn, I've been rewriting in that Shakespeare app. So I did like package management. I worked with, XML. I, worked with decoders. Now I'm trying to build an API for it. So it kind of, that app kind of turned into my learning mechanism.
Yep.
To just I think it's gone through like 8 rewrites at this point, experimenting with different ways to make it work.
That's funny. But it's great with all the channels.
I rarely try to do one thing at a time. So anytime I've got like a bunch of things I want to learn, I do a project that includes all of them, and usually ends up including about 10 more things.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I started writing an Alexa skill that used Lambda and a whole bunch of other AWS services. And I wrote it in Go. So that and then like a Go development kit of sorts to build Alexa skills. So that's the kind of thing that I do to sharpen my skills. I rarely do those like Gopher sizes or courses. Everyone will always recommend programming books or this, and I've never read a single programming book or like scholarly article on programming. And
I would say though,
it's good for some people.
Maybe adverse to you, but I do not believe I was able to make substantial progress in my software engineering skills until I took a basic computer science course, because I was extremely proficient at Go and was like being able to build applications, contributing to my team's code base, understanding it. But as soon as it came to any kind of infrastructural conversation, like how are we going to solve this problem, aside not thinking about the Go, just thinking about like, this is a problem we need to solve, I was stuck because I didn't understand the basic concepts of how the computer was working. So I did Harvard's CS50 course. It's free. It was great. It's 10 weeks, but you can zip through it honestly in like a week. If you like decide, okay, I'm going to do this. And again, you can put the video on double speed and just like pick out the key points. I'm all about efficiency. And honestly, that gave me information that was almost like the bridge between the Go skills I'd built up and like the high level understanding of how to think about technical problems. And then it kind of gave me that bridge of knowledge to be like, okay, take this and this. Okay, now I understand how to solve like technical problems. And I have the language and the understanding of Go to know what those Go tools can help me solve. Great. Okay, now I can actually move forward without that kind of gap in knowledge. So I would say you absolutely do not need a computer science degree, you do not need a formal education, but even just like a quick 20-minute YouTube, like basics of computer science is going to help a bit.
Yeah, I have Medium articles, do walkthroughs through whatever you're trying to learn. It's great. That's literally, I built, actually, we deployed it, a massive Cypress, like parallel test, like end-to-end test automation where it actually loads the browser, does the clicking, and verifies that everything's doing. Just finished this and running 600 tests in under 7 minutes, and 18 parallel runners. I did that by like reading Medium articles and just poking around at things, and that's literally how I do my job. Is I Google stuff, or actually I don't Google stuff. I'll not say anything more about my opinions in that regard, but I use DuckDuckGo. I ducked is actually what they say.
Yeah, I also feel like forcing mechanisms, like for example, like as you've chatted about, like needing to do it for your job, like you need to learn this thing for your job, I think is a great way to like force you to learn.
Yeah.
For sure. I feel like I have a couple of like forcing mechanisms. One is like signing up for a talk and like writing it that like in this talk, I'm going to talk about serialization, knowing nothing about serialization when I submitted the talk. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to give this talk in a month, I better learn this. Similar, if any of you tuned into the testing episode of Go Time yesterday, I offered to host that knowing nothing about testing like the 2 weeks before. And I learned Testify, put testing on my app and forced myself to learn it because otherwise I was going to not understand anything that was going on the podcast. So that has been my mechanism. So if I ever send either of you being like, hey, I really want to talk about this really technical, really weird concept, I promise you I will be ready by the time we get to the day. On the day I message you, I can't be 100% confident that I will. That's
funny. Yeah, that's definitely a way to force yourself to make sure you learn it, right?
Yeah, nobody wants. Imagine if I had rocked up and you had expected some talk, and I just went, "I'm really sorry, I don't know anything."
That's what I normally do. You know, and they're saying everybody says, "Oh, he's old. Just let him go." So, awesome. Well, I don't know. We had a couple people had to dive off, but yeah. Let's see. Any other? See, premium articles.
Yeah, so you get 3 free premium Medium articles if you use private browser. It loads as a different IP and you're not signed in, so you just open a new window every time, different IP.
I love that.
Free article.
Just trying to work around the system, just trying to scam the system.
Wait.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of these premium articles I read are complete garbage, and there's no reason I should be paying for that. So that's why I do that.
Well, you know, some of those New York Times articles now, too.
I get those for free normally, too.
We have, so what I will say on that is we have side doors that we are aware of. So we let people have a little...
Side note, unsubscribing from the New York Times is the hardest thing ever to do.
Yes, that is purposeful.
Intentional.
It took me about, the first time I did that, it took me about 45 minutes of calling and getting redirected and holding.
That shouldn't be. I mean, that shouldn't be the case. But I would say, like, historically, that flow has not been ideal. for obvious, like you want friction, you want to give people time to like think through, is this really what you want to do?
Yeah.
But I think honestly, like we're moving towards like just making it as easy as possible with the kind of hope that you'll leave, then you'll come back.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't like content being the issue. It was more just like I just didn't have time to get the value from it anymore once the rate went past the trial rate. So, yeah. Or promotional rate or whatever it was.
All right. Now let's see. Let me go ahead and then steal back the screen here.
That's a, you know, monetarily support your favorite publication.
I'm a die-hard Timesian. Like it's my first job ever, and I'm never leaving. Like my plan is to stay there. I will probably start my aspiration is to start a few like startups, but like build out the team so well that I can just like potter along as the founder while they potter along making the company very successful. I'll handle the finance and the legal things. Like I'll make it an LLC, I'll do all that stuff. But then just find a lot of wonderful developers who can create I'll come up with the idea and then they can, if they're passionate about it, then they can work on it.
Noted.
I already have. I'm on the hot take because there's only a few on the call, but I'm actually on the brink of possibly launching a startup. So
really,
I'll keep you posted.
I felt like that for about 4 years.
Yeah, but this is legit because once it's the same as the Go Time. Like once I launch the thing and I pay that money to make it a real company and put in that like 50,000 starter fund, like I need to get my butt moving.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Back in 2004, I had this idea of having it where you can share videos online.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, then YouTube came along, and yeah, I was out. So I could have been set by now. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's see. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Angelica. That was actually a really very good talk. Thank you.
Really my pleasure.
And then let's see. For those remaining, I'm just going to go through some of my standard slides here. Just let us know how we're doing, any kind of suggestions for speakers, topics, whatnot, beers that I should sample, whatever. I'm open to suggestions. So as long as it's not an IPA. I'm not a big IPA person.
Would you try kombucha? It's kombucha beer.
I'll try it.
I mean, you have to drink a lot of that to get the same effect. But probably feel like very full by the time you did.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, well, you'll probably have to come by because like it reminded me when you were talking about all the channels and the Go routines that you had in the Shakespeare app, I guess. Our next speaker is next month, our talk is all about concurrency and when to use it. So
yeah, I will definitely come back and watch that. I'll have a million and one questions.
My talk was dealing with concurrency and context cancellation and stuff, along with other things. But, yeah, that was part of my Alexa skill project, was running concurrent calls and dealing with context and like what do you do when one of the calls fails and context gets yanked out from the whole thing. But yeah, it's fun.
Share the link if you've got a video of it.
I do.
Distribute the knowledge. I would love
to. Not the one that I gave at our meetup, which was actually more Go oriented, but also very bad because it was a month after my life-altering car accident. But the one that I did that was more about everything, AWS, Alexa, and Go.
Yeah.
I do have a video of that somewhere, I think. Wait, it might not exist anymore. I have
Well,
slides.
if you find it, post it on Gopher Slack.
I have the slides. I knew that. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. And everybody, yeah, you can find us on Tech Slack. Just sign up there. We're in the Go channel. Also find I'm sure Angelica. Well, actually, yeah, you're on the Gopher Slack.
I am on the Gopher Slack regularly.
Yeah, Go Time does their live broadcasts, and they have people on Slack there. One of our former members, or former speakers, rather, Dylan Burke from last month, actually, I see him always commenting on there. So he's a regular in there as well. So now the part that everyone has been so anxiously waiting for, the giveaways. And because Brandon did show up tonight, we'll have the information. So we have what, one or two licenses for a JetBrains product.
Well,
GoLand is one.
I'm hoping we have one.
Hoping? That doesn't
I say that because they didn't send me one for March, which they should have, because we did use the others that they said, like, if you don't use these, then we're going to, because Michael used them. I don't know if he used February's or if, which one I gave him, and our Slack history is erased, so I can't see which one I gave him.
I feel like we're being extorted.
Yeah. I'll probably be able to re-up it, just because, like, on Meetup it says we have 30 plus attendees. So, yeah, we'll try the February one. If it doesn't work, I will put you on a list, because if we have to re-up it, they'll give us like 2 more. So we'll be good.
All right. Well, yeah, gotta be present to win. So it looks like, I don't know, Jay, did Jay win it last month? I don't recall. Who won the license last month?
Yeah, it was me, Jay.
It was Jay. Okay. All right. So
Jay, did it say what month yours was, or what?
Oh no, I don't recall. But I just posted that you can take me out of the running since I just won one. I'd rather it go to someone else.
Okay.
All right. So we're down to Josiah and Leon. Okay. I'm all right. I have a number in mind. And I'm gonna share that here with Angelica to show that this is on the up and up here. Okay, there's my number. Pick a number between 1 and 10, and we'll pick the person who's closest. And I guess you can throw a number in chat, in which I don't have my chat window exposed.
We've got 7 has been guessed.
Okay, there was a 7. Okay, and then let's see,
9
and 9. All right.
A 4 from Joshua.
Oh, Josiah got the 4. All right. And
Steve.
wait, oh, so I was only like seeing a couple people. I didn't scroll down. Oh,
I mean, your game still works. Whoever's closest.
Yeah. No, we're
42.
Yeah. Well, 42 is the meaning of life.
10.
It's the answer to everything.
Brandon. A number from 1 to 10.
Yeah, well, Brandon never pays attention to the rules, I think.
Rule breaker.
I mean, you just have to change what base we're using, and I mean, it could be any number between 1 and 10. So.
We're using the hexadecimal system.
Did I mention it has to be in the Fibonacci sequence, though? No. So, okay, well, our closest and apparently the winner is Josiah. Woo! Yeah, I need to get a soundtrack or something. I don't know. I want to be the American Matt Ryer, so I gotta.
Well, I'm slowly but surely hoping to become the female Matt Ryer.
Yeah.
So I'm weaseling my way
the
in.
dialect is there.
I hosted the Go Time on Tuesday, and I'm hosting the next 2 weeks too. I'm just slowly. Matt will be my co-host, and it'll be the two Brits. My hope.
Uh-oh. It's all downhill from there then, right?
It's all uphill.
Josiah, if you want to send me your email, I can email you the code license.
Maybe we should do a beer Go Time episode about how to code the ideal algorithm to suggest you your perfect beer.
Yeah, count me in. I'll be listening.
You could get Sabri in on that one.
That's right. He's always got that Hopcat hat.
Yeah, and he I know he's a Scotch guy too, so he can even do that.
Oh, one of those, huh? That's
yeah,
pinkies up.
Yes.
That's too fancy for me. All right.
Remember why I got into
it. Well, cool. So, all right. Well, then, yeah. So next month, then, April 28th, John Bodner. He was another GopherCon speaker, but he's also the author of Learning Go from O'Reilly. Get the link there, and actually, that just was published this month. So I'm going to be setting it up so we can have a little bit of a giveaway with a book or two. I don't know, maybe more. I don't know. It might. You never know. You just got to show up, and then you'll see. So his talk is going to be concurrency, when and how to use it. So Angelica, this might be a good one.
I mean, count me in. I'll be there.
Nah, excited about that one. And yeah, and in the following month we have I got a lined up for a CNCF project to be discussed. So I'm not going to let out the info just yet, but I'll give it a little time, little bit of a teaser. You got to keep, you got to check back. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. I don't put nearly enough stuff out there. I don't know. I'm not really good on the Twitterverse, so I'm just I don't know. It's my age or something. I don't know. But anyway,
at my age, I should be fully literate in this Twitter sphere, and I am not.
No,
I'm just like retweeting interesting things. I very seldom tweet myself. I'm just like, this looks fun, retweet.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't have the attention span for all that, all that. But I know, like Sabri, he's big on the Twitter sphere, and then also one of our past speakers too, Daniel Mangum. He's on there all the time too. It's like, oh man, definitely, it's work to keep up on that stuff. So, all right. Well, everyone, and Angelica, thank you again for presenting for us. It's really, really appreciated, and I'm going to look forward to hearing you again on the on Go Time. So,
listen out. The next one's on how to do a wonderful, the best wonderful workshop for Go.
Nice.
And then the next one is going to be on serialization, because I haven't learned that yet.
Everything comes around to JSON. So yeah, awesome. Cool. All right. Well, everyone, thank you all for attending. And then we will catch you on next week. I will be adding this to the channel shortly after I do the old school upload to YouTube. So that'll be ready after a while. And then we'll look forward to seeing you again next month. So thanks, everybody. And then, yeah, I'll try to see if I can get a beer sponsor, and I don't know, maybe a mustache wax sponsor. I'm still working on it. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.